Last time on The Empire's Edge.
I'm an elite, and of course they're peasants, of course they're watching. And I am so dangerous, I could destroy so much stuff right now. And then on the other side of that...
I like hell.
Right, yeah.
I wish I was in hell right now.
You are members of Clan.
Well, who made a lock? Was he locked in here?
Oh, yeah.
Or did he lock it when he left?
The way that this is kind of decorated, would it give any sort of a idea where this guy was from?
How expansive is this suite? Yeah, I'm looking for anything that would look like a journal.
The last one is simply titled Journal. Things about grammar, about how to speak their language, maybe even possibly read their language, and different things on experiments he was doing, looking for the Nenuriak's source of power, as well as like ledger informations. But then at the end of it, you can tell that an entire section of the book has been ripped out. So as you're standing there in these chambers, Elisedd's chambers, and you note that this journal has had a section torn out of it, any other...
What's the back of the journal made from?
It looks like it was some kind of a harder board, and it might have had some kind of a skin stretched over it.
Are there any impressions left on that we could figure out what the last page maybe said? Like, they do in detective movies?
What are the pages made of, like that it's stood up for this long?
Again, it would seem like it might be some kind of a fibrous material that's made out of who knows what kind of plant material here.
A mix of lichen
bit
and
out,
chitin.
rolled out flat. And like a lot of things with that kind of examination, you can roll that as an investigator if you're going to do that, separate from looking for actual information that's on it.
Hey, 22.
Oh, natural one. Is that a book?
That Boris, you're already noting that there is, again, chitin in it. Do you think it might be adding to the longevity of the pages itself?
Yeah, I'm betting that a lot of the wood we're seing is faux wood.
Right, yeah, exactly.
That's made out of dead
Petrified,
drones.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that the back part of this, that there is some imprints on it, and with the numbers you just rolled, I didn't hear what yours was though, Jacob.
Oh, low. You said investigation?
Yes.
Yeah, 5.
Right, and so it was a 5, something else low. I forget what it was, Zelen. Yeah, and then
22.
At 22. So
feels good, doesn't it?
I must actually be holding the book. You guys are smelling the book.
What was written here must have been like turned on that last page, and it is saying again in Kremlin, and it's neat to be able to read it just wholly this time instead of like skipping through it. And that is of profound implications. I must ask the council.
That's what the last page of it.
That was the very last thing he wrote into it.
And the very last thing is, they're coming to get me right now. And just like the trail
as you were in last episode, you were listing out like sections of the journal or topics he was covering. Would you mind listing those out again?
Those are different books.
Yeah,
like
I thought.
On woodworking or on
Yeah, those are different books, but on this one...
Yeah, there was Stonework Simplified, The Journeyman's Esoterica, and The Fundamentals of Alchemical Brewing.
Right, those are different books, right.
And his journal.
And journal.
And his journal,
But in it, there was what would appear to be, though some of the elements are mixed up with other topics.
It's all kind of shuffled together.
Yeah, like a grammar primer. But it is the Nenuriak language.
That's what the whole journal is?
I remember you saying like it was really disordered.
Notes in it
That's a part of it. That's a part of the journal. Another part of it was experiments. And it seems like he was doing some kind of magical testing, trying to find out what the source of Nenuriak power is.
I wonder if he found it. If that was the last section. A thing of profound importance that he needed to communicate with the council.
And I wonder if he died or if he communicated it to the council and they were like, oop, whoops, and now you're a different type of resource.
Now you're, a threat. Okay.
I want to...
Real quick, the last one was a ledger where he was
keeping track of...
Yeah, like the relative cost and wealth of things. Not too much that, but what some things would trade for. Oh. Like, it might have been a matter of like coin wealth, which is in there.
Well, and I bet it's also an inventory of what he's got on hand.
And it is.
Purely, if you out of morbid curiosity, is there any sort of an inclination, like, have they experienced any sort of inflation down here, or does it seem like the same prices that we might have just overheard?
Save your economics degree for later.
Hey, I'm curious.
It seems relatively constant.
Okay.
And so what kind of things is there anything of interest listed in the inventory? Is there anything immediately listed in the inventory that we would go, I'd like to find that. Is that still here?
Well, some things that pan out to what you've already seen, that there was located somewhere in some tunnel a piece of beam,
All right.
and who knows what it came from, and that was obviously brought down here, but they had to pay a certain amount in iron coin to get that beam. They could have used it for some other resource, so he had to pay for it. It wasn't like it was a gift. But most of the stuff that he has in this seems very kind of nondescript, but then it does say something about acquired Calicera for my own use.
Acquired Calicera?
Right.
Oh, those are the clicky things.
Yeah. The mouth parts.
Ah.
But most of there isn't like, I have magical this, I have magical that.
Right.
Yes, my gray robes of the Archmagi.
Does it say how he's getting money? How's the money coming in? How's he earning it?
That he is doing missions that
And he's
would
getting
be,
paid.
He's getting paid for them, right?
Interesting. So I'd like to turn on detect magic on my wand.
Okay.
And because I want to check to see if maybe he hid something anywhere.
Okay, so you're working that check there. While you're doing that, and you're moving around like from this room, I guess, to the next,
Yeah,
as
I'll
needed.
check the whole place.
Jacob, anything you're doing in particular that everyone's focused on this writing desk with this very small little library?
I imagine you're still holding that booklet, so you're probably going to do something with his journal.
Mm-hmm.
I'd vocalized the question to him, just wondering maybe we can get some sort of a context of what he was working on or where he made this discovery. If he was writing down his daily things, like wherever maybe he went to this thing, and there might be a previous note of I found something of interest in blah 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 such and such cave, and then that was later on buried in before. So we might want to spend some time doing that. But
Okay.
I also know that you asked me for a roll last episode that was just like a hold on to that after you spent 2 hours doing this or whatever. So I would get back to doing that to continue to
Right.
get as much information as I can about like knowing more about
Looking
the
at
guy
the walls,
as a
looking at the
person,
space the
the space he lived in,
as you're
who
moving
this other
around
person was
this-
with him if he wasn't alone.
Can I add to that? Because I was going to speak kind of to that point.
Okay.
The way you're describing this journal, that's fairly stream of consciousness. That if he switched from writing the Inuriac language to whatever arcane experimentation or alchemical experimentation he was doing, it's not like he went to a different section in it. He just continued wherever he
to
was.
write, yeah.
That implies intelligence, but not organization per se.
Agreed.
So he doesn't seem like the person to leave the place clean right when he died. So
that's a good
what I'm
point.
wondering
Yeah.
is, did someone else clean the place up? And that's why things are kind of in the wrong
Yeah.
spot.
He's clearly has no OC level at all. Heidi.
Well, yeah, and there might not be a way to tell this, but unless you're reading and writing and making extrapolation, so you're
Well, I'm just kind of inferring from how the journal's organized versus
The
how
way he curves his R.
Yeah.
You're just doing like an actual like look into this guy's behavior analysis, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
the writing.
Oh, no, I'm not looking at how he writes literally the letters. I'm looking at how he writes, how the journal's organized
Yeah.
versus how the room is organized.
So you're
But the
working
two
on
don't
that.
seem to match.
But let me go back to what Jacob was looking for a little bit ago, that you continue around this room looking to see what might be painted on the walls or what kinds of scenes are there, how the things were made, organized, etc. And you go through it and you notice that on a side table where there's very utilitarian things that are still here, like a jar, a lump of rock that might have been interesting, other items that would be like hand tools, like you're going to do some excavating or rock chipping, that sort of thing. But there is something that looks like, you had to glance at it twice, in the dust layer that looks a little bit like an Inuriac's head sitting on a table adjacent to where his desk area is.
Oh, like preserved or?
I wonder if it's like a helmet. Is that what he put the little clicker things in so he could talk to them?
wondering if it was the Chelicera.
Right, yeah.
Chelicera, yeah.
So it doesn't, there's no rot, there's no odor coming from it.
I mean, so long as like when Zelen walks the room, she doesn't say, "Don't touch that; it's magical." I'll go over and
Yeah, so if Zelen just sweeps that, as she's looking for magic, she's just thinking, she goes right by it without even pausing and just keeps on going on her way.
yeah, taking that as enough of an indication, I'll go over to it and give it a first cursory glance without touching it, and then deciding if it's not like not sharp or whatever.
It'll fit your
It's-
head.
Trapped.
It is a
Trapped being, yeah.
it is the majority of the face chitin, those face plates of an Inuriac, but it seems that it's been modified, that there's like some cords or tension bands that come off to the one side of it, and Are you picking it up or examining it for traps? So if you're going to do that, roll it for detecting a trap.
I'll roll for traps before I touch it.
Zelen, nothing in this room so far says magic.
Okay, I'm gonna just keep
Move out
going
into
through
the
every
one.
place. Though I'm very interested in the study and any place that it would. You know how tall people use tall cabinets and short people use short cabinets?
Sure.
I'm particularly interested in places where it would seem to me it would be very inconvenient for an Aniriac to reach, like small spaces that their clawy things couldn't really get into, but he could.
All right, so each one of these rooms do have cabinets, counter in the kitchen area, and of course you can imagine, you can predict kind of stuff that's in there. A lot of this in here seems like writing implements and material, the actual process of making some kind of a paper-like substance he's writing on, and fabrication of ink. So you think that a lot of the space in his study was also a manufacturing center, that he was producing the stuff that he could use to write his journals. And just to glean from that, you'd think it's a slow process. That it wasn't like he could, turn this stuff out just pages a day. It was a much, much slower process than that. But so far, nothing that would say he tried to hide a thing in this space here. Boris, as you're reading this journal, you are getting the idea that, and looking at the other books, that he probably went back into each one of these tomes and found other things to write about it, and either edited his own work, scratched stuff out, came back and rewrote over it again. But that as you go through and realize where things have been scratched out, where it's original, rewritten, with the roll you made before, you probably would say there is a decreasing amount of organization in his brain and how he works. And you could extrapolate that this man probably would have had this place like a garbage bin, typically, that it does seem to be picked up more than what it would have been like the moment he left it. And you can imagine that would have gotten worse and worse as time went on.
So I am inferring from there that since we're not knee deep in, alchemical byproduct and effluvia, it was cleaned up by something. It would have to have been the Anuriacs. Therefore, it would stand to reason that unless, with whatever you're looking for secret compartments, the place is going to be pretty picked over for actual, usable valuables.
It would seem as though once he stopped being a resource, anything he had to aid his resource that they could have used somewhere else, they would have taken.
Okay, so I'm gonna share that realization.
Yeah, that's interesting. So they don't hold him in any real particular regard. This wasn't set up as kind of a memorial to him in some way. It's just that nobody could use this space. The door was closed.
Yeah, it was insufficient for them to use that space. But
Well,
Jacob,
I think a slightly different, but I think reasonably distinct way of wording that. It would cost more resource to make it usable to them.
Right.
That they didn't feel a need to refit it because nobody needed the space.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jacob, what did you roll for your checking for traps?
29.
Yeah, there's definitely not a trap on this, but you can tell as you're examining it, getting down, even with it, kind of even with the tabletop level, looking under it, there's definitely like strap and tension bands that are on the inside of it too. That you can tell are there without even lifting the thing up.
And whatever, I mean, you guys are having this whole conversation out loud, so whatever this is, the Anuriac didn't exactly see any usefulness in it, so it didn't get picked clean or taken away like the rest of the resources.
I think it's the communication device. I mean, he wrote in his journal.
I didn't even think about it being a way to let him communicate.
I think it's like a helmet that he could use that Glycera. He could pull the little wand, the little straps, and click with it, so he could communicate with it.
Oh,
that's my guess.
So
I don't know where my brain was.
Are you picking it up, Jake?
Yeah,
Jacob?
I'll grab it and carry it over to Boris, who's reading the book.
So as you're picking the thing
Maybe
up,
it has instructions.
You can tell right away that this could be put on a person's head, and it'd be less a helmet and more of a mask. That the straps on the back, would hold it in place. That there are breathing tubes, and you can see that. Well, do you try to experiment or manipulate it in some capacity?
Yeah, I'll put it on.
That
It fuses to your face.
Yeah, right. Roll a new character.
Your charisma is now down to a 3.
Joke's on you. My charisma was a 2. That's an
my
upgrade.
charisma went up. Right on.
Improvement. That
Upgrade.
that there are tubes to blow through, and as you do, it immediately starts making like a Neriac sound. That some of their kind of like the humming sounds behind the clicks, and that there are different straps that hang down right near the neck on the one side. You'd need to use your hand to manipulate it, but you can make the Glycera move a mandible-like, tooth-like thing click together, and you're also moving your jaws to make things move on the inside with a tension band. So it's like a one-man band running a thing between.
Well, I was just thinking the most cursed bagpipe ever.
Yeah, that between air, tension, both with like jaw, and then your hand on the one side, that you believe you could duplicate a number of Inuriac communication sounds.
Oh, I immediately start trying to replicate all the curse words that Shataska's taught me.
Which have been none. However, Boris would have already picked up that he did note that there was a portion of his primer that was what's tantamount to interjections and expletives that are known to the Inuriac.
I was kidding about that, but that's awesome. Yeah, I'll bring it up to Boris and just say, yeah. Is it like Morse code almost? Like it gives you like a what clicks do what and what order do what?
Well, yeah, it's a primer. It's a that portion is a book on the language to learn the language.
Yeah.
And
I think what I'd probably need to do is just translate that from or transliterate that from Kremlin to Confederation.
Right. However, you've already remember from previous experiences, Jacob, that you guys were picking up on Kremlin more. You couldn't read it fluently.
Oh yeah.
But you can. And this is very simplistic.
I'm just a cheater.
He's got it all right now. That you'd probably get maybe about half of what's being said as it is. So when a thing is simply like, that kind of, it or that would be easy, for you to pick up on in Kremlin, and then to see the translation, that you could read a fair bit of the primer because it's got to be simplistic and actually make that work. So Zelen, after a certain period of time, you'd come back in and say, I can't find anything magical. And at the end of that couple-hour period of you guys like going through here, maybe starting to decide who's going to use what room, and you want to find a broom somewhere, and you do find a couple of homemade whisk brooms to clean the place up. That Jacob, tell me what the rolls were you made for those initial rolls. But I said wait 2 hours and tell me what you've done.
You said just one with advantage.
Okay,
that's what I meant. What skill was that supposed to be? I just have the roll.
I believe we said that was for investigate.
Okay, 16.
That you actually recognize some of the scenes.
Ooh.
This is definitely from the open plain that is adjacent to, but not right in the same area of Sarntar Azul.
Okay.
I wonder if he came through the same path that we did.
So
he
what
fell
are
down
the
too.
scenes? Are they domestic scenes? Are they
pastoral? Like if somebody had a villa somewhere out in the country, and sometimes the villa is in the foreground and takes up a wall, and sometimes you can tell that it's off in the distance, but it would fit the same. And then for the most part, it is cross field, open field, cattle, another villa some distance away, and then the forest behind, the mountains behind that. There's nothing so specific that you'd say, that's got to be Sarntar Azul. It seems way out in the country, or that's the throne of Indara. You're too far away. But it fits the distances in Jacob's eye to say that is that valley.
So you can read all languages. Can you look at it and see if there's any message? Does it count that way? Like, can you look at it and see if there was anything he was attempting to either
if there's a
hide?
secret code in the map somewhere?
Was he trying to hide or communicate
Or if
anything?
there's a chunk of hieroglyphs in it.
Right. Yeah, the way the bricks were aligned or something.
It'll only take me instantly, so might as well.
And it doesn't look as though anything was hidden as a message or meaning. That he must
there
have
wasn't anything written, encoded.
Right.
Just
painted this in time, over time, to just make
nostalgia.
It simulate home. Right. Now, the rooms that are the common area, the kitchen, the first bedroom and the study, the painting seems methodical, that a lot of time went into it. And when you get back to the further rooms, it seems a little more cartoony, like a younger person, a toddler was painting it.
I think he was forgetting what it looked like almost.
Or, was just impatient about it, or lack of material. Who knows?
Yeah, and just getting old, because at that point, if that was towards the end of his life, he's probably, 80.
How long are we thinking it's going to take you to get through this whole journal? With average reading speed, do we know what it would take him? Because I'd be surprised if there wasn't at least a few pages dedicated to how he got here in the first place. Kind of like a little bit about life beforehand and maybe what he did in order to get here. Like, I feel like that would be easily included, but I don't know. With his disorganized way of writing, it might be.
What's your
chapter
intelligence?
7?
My intelligence is 15.
Yeah, so considering having a 150 IQ, you probably read all these books pretty fast. at least to get like the surface understanding of
Mhm.
them. So as you guys are setting up shop and just decide, do you want room 1, 2, 3, or 4 for your individual rooms, and what information? I mean, you can go out into the hallway and see how often somebody goes by. Try to order a drone around, but there is nothing to eat in here apart from any rations you might have left yourselves, which I would think is getting pretty much about gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
can call
that
people and give us good
they'll
berries.
probably bring you food eventually, but making a list of things you might need. But days are going to go by where you're just in this place.
Yeah.
And if you say nothing else, it'll be the next day, and you're going to have Shatask checking in on you.
I think I might use what I can to create transliterations of the primer. If paper is in a short supply, there's probably going to be blank pages left in Timothy and Stanislaus' journals.
Yeah,
and I've
there
still
are.
got those.
Sure.
So using those pages and any ink that might be left, any ink that any of us might have,
You do find his
a
methodology
charcoal stick.
for how you could definitely have that he would have had to make his ink, and it'd be a matter of like resupplying that. But he has his whole manufacturing process laid out of how he made his ink and made his paper.
So I can also prepare comprehend languages, and then I could read all these things. Do you want to get through them faster by having me prepare that so I read some of them as well?
I don't want you to focus on the Arcana book. That I think if
The
that,
Esoterica book?
yeah, the Journeyman's Esoterica.
Right.
That if that can help us understand arcane stuff more specifically, that'd be really useful. That's kind of already your
Because it's come up a lot.
right. And then while we're down here, I think once I've got the language stuff translated for Jacob, I'm probably going to start taking a look at the Stonework Simplified and just seeing if I can get a handle on architecture stuff, because that might help a lot while we're
Right.
down here.
All right, so it says that it takes about 1 minute to read one page of text, but it doesn't decode secret messages in a text or a glyph, such as an arcane sigil that isn't part of a written language.
Okay, yeah.
So will I still be
There's a
able to read
paladin
it?
for that.
Well, what it's saying is if there's like a magic seal on it, you won't go, that's this kind of magic seal. It'll just still be symbols.
Okay.
Or, hieroglyphs, or if he wrote, a gibberish code only he and some other long dead lunatic
pictograms or
knows.
something. Yeah.
Um,
But the way that it looks, just like flipping through the pages, it is written in that language, so you should be okay.
Okay, so I'm going to prepare comprehend languages
for tomorrow.
for tomorrow.
All right, and then you're taking your own space, and then the next day when Shatask comes by and you give her a list of, we need foodstuffs, we need charcoal, we need these kinds of chemicals to
We
make
need
ink
blankets.
again, and we need blankets. So you give her that list, and then she's like, any questions for her beyond just get stuff?
So he clearly had a source for money. Can we get money so that we can go and get these things ourselves?
Or can we just tour around the city and start learning that some too?
Both. That you will be compensated for the resource that you were expending to support the clan. And the council is still in session. They've not broken session since they met with you yesterday, and they are still determining resource and the first mission that they would put you on to utilize resource. But they would be paying you for that. However, you may also barter in the city, and you are fully welcome to go into the city. You'll find that once you exit the second circle from this circle, that Isk and Thovit would be there with you as well.
We'll need a translator.
And how would that come through? A little bit like "How dare you?" But then it stops almost immediately, and she says, like mentally, "Of course."
I don't. Yeah, it's
Like almost insulting. That's weird.
well, it's that that I'd be reducing her status to something akin to a drone.
Oh yeah, we didn't mean
a
her.
mouthpiece. We need somebody that we can communicate with because
Yeah.
we can't speak the language. How are we going to barter?
Right? Is there a lesser that could? Is there
a
a
novice.
more larva that could translate for us as we move throughout the city?
there are larvae who could translate for you. However, I've been assigned to you, and you are my mission now. But I am sister cousin, and I understood a moment after I reacted that you meant no disrespect.
I apologize.
And she just nods at you, and I will find out about you being compensated in iron. And then she goes off with her list.
Okay. When she goes off, I have also prepared overnight legend lore, which, remember, that's the wizard spell that I can name or describe a person, place, or object, and it brings to mind a brief summary of the significant lore about the thing you named. The lore must consist of current tales, forgotten stories, or even secret lore that has never been widely known. If the thing you name isn't a legendary importance, you gain no information. The more information you already have, the more precise the detailed information.
Okay. And you're
right.
thinking of doing some research into Elisedd?
Yep.
Okay.
As I think about it, here's what I'd like to propose. Let's trade books. Let me study the journal more, because the more I know about him, the better the information I get about him. So let me study the journal more so I can kind of get in his head before I prepare and cast this,
Okay.
because that could potentially get us some good
So
information.
the more you know about the subject, the more
Yeah,
you
it
can get
says
out of it.
the lore, the more
It
information.
doesn't say that.
The more information you already have about the thing, the more precise and detailed the information you receive is. So maybe I could even get a glimmer of what's in the missing passage if I kind of really got into
Understood
his
his brain more.
headspace.
Potentially.
Yeah,
And that could also be that, like, over a little bit of time too, that Jacob communicates what he's figured out about, like,
Right.
the paintings on the walls and things like that. too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think it'd be more valuable then that I'm reading the Journeyman's Esoterica instead of Stonework Simplified?
I think so, because I bet that is
Magic does come up a lot, doesn't
right.
it?
Well, and I think that the Esoterica could also give us insight into how he thinks, what his beliefs were, maybe how his beliefs changed over time.
Well, then that's kind of back to you.
Yeah.
Me knowing
that's
things
true.
doesn't help your legend
That's
lore.
true. It takes me a minute to read a page.
Well, from what Shatask had said to you, that they could be in council for a long period of time.
A number of days.
Days and days. Maybe even weeks before they decide what your first task is going to be as a resource.
So I think maybe I really work on studying both of those.
Sounds good. I'll keep with the stonework.
Okay.
I'll keep learning a new language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah.
Yeah, truly.
I need to
Keep
get the
practicing with the clicker.
with your
Yes, right. Worrying
Cursed
around
bagpipe.
sleeping with the thing on your face.
But first, what do you need?
Well, first I need the journal so I can finish copying the primer so he can have that.
Okay.
And you two aren't butting heads over, one, the thing you need to read, and two, the thing he can't read but needs to read.
Ask Shatask for a sparring buddy, not like for fighting though, for just learning learning the language. Can I have
Yeah,
can I have
maybe.
a language coach?
Yeah, that larvae.
Someone that I
that-
can practice talking to.
I think that could be a good idea. Honestly.
Like, so saying, like, I don't need a translator. I just need someone whose time could be reasonably
Devoted
well
to this.
spent or devoted to this.
We'll say that it's later in that same day because they know you've
Y'all
got
got
to
any
eat.
kids show I can watch?
And you're like, that
Soy Dora.
they do bring in blankets, and there is a vat of water. You're pretty sure it's water that is brought in and stationed in the kitchen area.
I don't like both the use of the term vat, nor
Pretty
you think
sure.
it's
Pretty
water.
sure.
Yeah,
Right.
you're pretty sure it's water.
It's mostly water-ish. That
Water adjacent.
right, and various foodstuffs that seem mostly like that kind of paste that was their rations, and some fresher stuff that is definitely meat that you could probably guess is hook horror. That they're bringing stuff to you
Okay.
that they think would be, suitable for you for the next day or two. And then other things that they're putting in, they've also brought you oil. They're figuring for the various lamps around here,
Mhm.
the chemicals needed to remake to make ink
And
and
paper.
the actual parchment itself. So there's a number of things that are brought in for those. And they've also brought in what looks like woven of some sort, blanket-like. I mean, they seem kind
It's
of
a
like
covering.
stiff. It's a covering. It'll hold heat, but
it's
it
a
isn't like it's
bulletproof blanket.
Right.
it's a giant sheet of like styrofoam or
Maybe
plastic.
it's one of those stress blankets that are like really heavy
Yeah,
when you
the
lay
weighted
under them.
blankets.
They're supposed to
Um,
help you.
But when they bring these things in,
Can I say I had prepared detect poison and disease? The way you're being evasive about the jug of quote unquote water.
Well, you could certainly have that for tomorrow. Couldn't you? Or after a short rest, you could do that, right?
It's pretty
Mm.
thirsty today.
So yeah, later in the day, you certainly could. But when all this is done, you do get the impression from just the tone of Shatask's thoughts that you have been brought so much resource that it's almost obscene how much resource you've been brought and has been set here, and you've never seen this being stunned, apart from when Isk and Thovit disagreed way back in the Murmuring Sea. But this seems even more profound than that moment. That there's so much been brought to you guys, and you really haven't even done anything yet. It seems pretty paying up front.
That's interesting. That's not good news.
I'm supposed to be a good guy. How am I going to be the arch heretic?
So a number of days go by, you're settling into it, and here's what you're getting out of this. That already through translation and practice, Jacob, you're starting to get some phrases down using the mandibles of the Calicera, and that you are pretty much sure that over time, Zelen, that you would be able to probably gain proficiency, in essence being tutored indirectly by this old wizard, that you could gain Arcana as a proficiency, that you'll have that with your proficiency skills. And then with the stonework, you think you'd be gaining the same, Boris, when it comes to identifying those things involving stonework, not stone itself, just like the geology of it.
Yeah, that I have proficiency on checks relating to like architecture and stuff.
Right,
Okay.
and maybe even like age of how it was worked, what it would take to work that kind of stone,
Okay.
maybe that sort of stuff, right?
So, am I
Strength.
learning anything about the telepathy talking?
No, there's
Conver talking.
Conver talking?
there's been nothing about that specifically yet. No. 2 days have gone by this way, where you're getting into like living like this, and when Shatask comes on this particular day to bring food for you again for the next couple, she reminds you are allowed to move out into the city. You may go that far, and you will have an escort with you once you go out, and I will be there with you as well, and we'll travel through there with you as a sister. You do not need to stay in this one place indefinitely, awaiting the terms of the council.
How would I judge my communication skills with this language after 2 days of practicing?
It'd be, you could probably like
Your
order.
meatloaf is
You
full
could,
of
about to
foot.
say, you could order a restaurant.
It is full of foot.
You could order a restaurant poorly, but they probably get the idea. But complex conversation, it would still be was
Are
way
you
beyond
saying
you.
bread? Are you saying barn? Who knows?
You're right, yeah.
Okay,
But you could certainly give it a try and practice it too.
wouldn't be a bad idea. Getting
And-
some real life practice.
Did she give us iron? Do we have some iron coin?
Yeah.
She said,
When she comes back in, she does say that you are going to be paid as well, and hands over to each one of you a dozen of their iron coins.
okay.
Neat.
Yeah,
And we've gained an understanding of what a value of each coin is from
the journal.
the journal.
As close as you can, yeah.
Yeah.
That it seems to have a pretty good buying power, one coin.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to go walk around
So
and see
they've
what
got
there is to see.
Barter system and $20 bills, and that's it.
Yeah, it's probably more like barter system and $50 bills. Yeah, and what do you get back in change? Nothing.
Yeah.
I guess I'm getting 6 cows instead of just
Yeah,
one.
right.
Yeah, negotiating skill.
And moving out from here, it'd be easy for Jacob, considering his role coming in, and it would take just a little more time for both Zelen and Borsch to learn it. That the circles you're traveling out from this fourth, that you're traveling down a certain spiral pattern. You're watching, through the windows on the outside of the building. You can see where you're descending, and whenever you come around one side of it, you can see the taller buildings that lead toward the very center where you were at that council chamber. But you're following the ones that go out. You go to a joining tower, so you've left yours all together, and then you find yourself back outside again. So that wouldn't take a lot of practice, getting into and out of the place and finding it.
Wishful thinking. I'm glad that we're using terms like outside. It's like, yes, the fresh air. No, no.
Well, they
Still
probably
new.
have a fairly large water source to sustain this level of population. And there's probably something approaching a farm. It's going to be like fungi
Fungus,
and
yeah.
lichens and moss.
Aphids, big ones.
Ew. So there is probably nominally some movement of air and something approaching green things somewhere.
I miss the lizards. I miss the giant wasps and the lizards.
Yeah, me too. Me
All right.
too.
So after the
I draw a picture of a lizard on the wall. I just start spending my time
Drawing it
working
in.
and drawing it.
So then do you take her advice and go out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
All
for
right.
sure.
So you do find yourself out, and by the time you've gotten to
Familiarize ourselves with the city we're serving.
right 2 circles out from where you are in this building, Isk and Thovid are right there. And by the time you're out of that building, Shatask is with you again. The 3 of them generally seem to be together. And then you find yourself out of the building, along that, around those corners, out of the compound, main gate, and you're in the main part of the city where this open market seems to be. Numerous lights overhead that have been cast to illuminate it down its length, and it's stretching out and away from you. This building complex is at one end, and this would be a good part too. Go ahead and roll that, Boris, as your siege craft. Not quite the architectural one yet at this point.
I'm going to cast dark vision before we leave, just so I can see without having to have produce flame.
Okay, but they do have lights.
I know.
Okay.
Is it bright light relatively or dim light functionally?
It's dim light functionally for most of the place, and then when you're closer to those big lights that are cast overhead, or like at the main gates to houses, it's exceedingly bright. It's like daylight bright, in a big circle.
Okay. It's an 18 on siegecraft.
This whole market with this clan at the one end, you would say that this would be the most important clan at a certain point. This market leads to it like a boulevard. It's the end of that lane, of the end of that road. And yet there are other, as you're looking off, like further down the market to the right, there's another, like there's clan homes. And then behind that, there's even larger clan homes that you would think, because of the total number of beings to manufacture and maintain it, that they have way more resource than the clan you're working for.
Okay.
But at one point, this whole structure was built around
That answers a question for me I'd been thinking about but didn't quite want to ask, because going is like, hey, are you guys actually really poor? Because you seem really poor. If she got offended by translator, I think I might have just been shot.
Right.
She
Right.
just bites off your head and starts chomping on it.
So
Yeah,
it's
right.
almost like they were at one time really important.
Yeah, it sounds like they've fallen from a primacy. And that is why the council is in such long deliberation, because they're trying to gauge, one, how long we're going to be here before they have to fill their end and take us to the surface. And 2, what can we accomplish in that limited time?
Yeah.
How meteoric is their rise to the top going to be?
I'm going to ask Shatask, how many clans are there in the market?
There are in the market. There are 40 clans that have wares in the market.
And there are more beyond the market?
There are more. There are the clans that are involved in the market have their home here. There are over 40 clans, closer to 60 clans total. But some clans are no more than small houses. Of the large clans, there are 6 that hold the most power.
Do Neriak move from clan to clan? Or you're born into your clan and
Never.
you stay in
There
your
is
clan?
never gravitation from clan to
And and as larvae, you're born into your clan and you stay in your clan.
Of course. How else could it possibly be?
Yes, Zelen, gosh.
Yeah, I'll probably, as we're walking through the market and just kind of browsing and window shopping, I guess, taking in what there is to be taken in, I'd probably try and explain the concept of marriage. That it's...
Are you trying to buy one of their wives? You got 3 pieces of iron. I'll give you a 4th.
No. Well, because then that raises certain biological questions about their species.
Oh.
That I'm trying to explain, the genetic and political union of what can be considered a ruling clan in the surface, just kind of
Right.
for analogy's sake,
Right.
and asking if there is a parallel.
Yeah, like a way for 2 clans to join.
In the same way that it describes their own buildings, that they're like cones that overlap and intersect with other cones, that the circle of that overlaps with the circle of how we run things here in Shatakdan. That clans may unite and make a new clan, but ultimately that's a lie. It's a lie that's agreed upon, because it will become the stronger of the 2 clans. And the other clan very slowly will be bred out of it.
Okay.
It's a business merger.
Yeah.
Where they say it's a friendly takeover. It never really is.
Yeah, that it's, less a union of two peers and more the lesser is subsumed into the greater.
Right. Well,
Well, that says a lot.
I'm very interested in everything in the marketplace. Like what
Yeah,
kind of animals, what kind of beings,
what are they selling?
What are
What
they
is- I was
selling?
literally about to ask
Is
that
there
exact same
anything
thing,
from the
yeah.
surface
What-
that they might be
Yeah,
selling?
what does an ant spend his wages
Yeah, what
on?
Right.
would you want that on? Well, surprisingly, you see that there are like manufactured items that your eye just goes across, from one end of this, the first stall to the next, and as it runs down that way, it seems so typical to what you would have seen in an above ground market until you look a little bit closer, and that stuff seems to be off just a little bit from what you would expect. Stuff that catches your eye almost immediately, not that any of you have been geared toward larceny, is that there are items made out of silver and gold that you wouldn't have thought that there would be such bright and shiny things, and they're not made like unusual hanging lamps or lanterns, or their tea service sets, or coffee sets or whatever. It's just shapes that have been worked in silver to either work into a wall to demonstrate, look how much resource I have, held there as a bank
that's
or whatever.
really weird.
And they're ranging in the size from things that will be very small, like less than an ounce, a tenth of an ounce, to pieces that would probably weigh like 30 or 40 pounds.
Wow.
And how many silver coins or how many rather iron coins does it take to get that? But again, the iron's the money, and these things are just a display of resource.
Yeah.
I'm really tempted to go over and try and while I'm using my limited ability to communicate to the best of my
Oh, you're
ability.
wearing the thing right now?
Oh, yeah, I think
Oh,
I came
cool.
out with it. I wanted to do some real life practice with it. But-
You probably would be getting some looks.
Yeah,
probably.
You're a demon wearing, Trevor's face.
But I think it'd be great to go over and use my inability to speak well to them and just see if I can barter them down to the lowest possible price for a thing where they eventually just give up because they can't really talk to me that well. Fine, one, and they just give me one of the things for
I'll
it.
buy that Wanderbending Scroll for one copper piece.
I think from their point of view, it would seem like you're a quintessential. You have a forked
Tourist.
tail. No, forked tail. You're painted red. You have horns and sharp, pointy teeth, and you're wearing the mask of like a nice, normal human being.
So a tourist.
Yeah. So, as had they had children in the conventional sense, they'd probably be grabbing by the hands and moving them out of the way, because at least the other two are not trying to hide what they are, but you're trying to pass like you're something else. And you do note that no one has recognition like they've seen that before.
Oh.
So for the other casters that are out and about, and you can recognize them by their various robes and ribbons, and from other clans as well, that you do get looks from them, and they get right to your brain about what's going on.
What?
And that's when you realize that there is a circle of your own clan that moved out with you once you guys entered those outside doors.
Nice.
So you're again the middle of an entourage as you're moving about.
Uko bless the
Hmm.
clan of Kreen'Ochrogin.
Yeah, there you go. But
Yeah, I'd probably mutter that as soon as I realized you're semi under attack psychically by every mage in the vicinity.
Stop thinking at me.
but there's pottery being made. There's stuff that's fired, things that's for sale. Like the whole process of it. Pots, like even things that are kind of like dishes, but not exactly.
Oh, we could have two
And-
iron pots now.
And amphora, that.
Why would you make a pot out of dollar bills?
Did,
Oh, right.
did you bring the pot down with you?
Oh
Is
my
it in your
gosh.
gear?
Yeah,
Because
I think
that's
yeah.
it's a little bit
thing's
like
$1
she's
trillion.
that she has so much
You're
money.
the wealthiest
right
person
there.
in the
That's
city
right, yeah.
because you've got an iron
You
pot.
got an iron pot you brought
We
down
are
with
so
you.
using that as the bathroom now. that is the pinnacle of wealth.
Well, it just then makes them wonder how they're thinking about me because I am bedecked
Oh, that's true.
in not only refined iron, but specially refined iron.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
true.
Oh man.
Yeah. So the
I
wealth
look like I've been dipped in gold.
and the
I'm
resource
wandering
exactly.
around.
Yeah. Probably to the point of being gaudy. Like, for crying out loud.
What
What will that clan do next? But there's also, you see stacks of tiles, like flat, slightly curved, all sorts of different subtleties of shape in them. And you could ask about anything you want to. Shields, weapons, mostly picks and clubs. You can buy money. You see that they actually have places where the money's out for sale. But there's also things like lichens to burn, bones chitin from the various creatures. Ores seem to be just like piles of rocks there.
Ores like rowing oars?
No, ores like
like
mineral
iron
ores.
ore.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like unrefined metal.
Right. But you see also there are like large amounts of things that look like hair, stuff like teeth,
Ew.
piles and parts of chitin, even
hair.
Well,
even stuff,
probably fur.
even things where it looks like they'd be repairing things. Like if somebody brought in some other item and it was being redone, what would be, though they're rare, like furniture pieces, things that they would have.
I want to go look at the tile.
Okay.
What could the tile be used for? What would they do with it?
And I'm kind of keeping my eyes out.
Task. What do you use the tiles for?
Since I make some of the weirdest arrows and weapons in the first place, I'm looking like, what can I weaponize as
really-
we're walking through here?
Make a harrow.
Picks the thing up and I cast Tangle Hair on you.
Oh no, that was so good.
Shatask picks up one of the tiles and said the standard use, and goes like and like spits at it, and that gob just like sizzles on it and rolls off. See, neither acid, fire too. We will coat. They're very expensive, but the wealthy will coat their houses in them.
Oh, interesting.
If I could hazard a guess, it seems like in addition to the protective factor, which probably means it's drone chit or chitin, that it seems like there's very little personal decoration. That most of the art goes into the clan building or compound. That me wearing a signet ring is really unusual, because why would you decorate yourself that way?
Right.
Yeah, unless it was done their way to demonstrate, look how good a resource I am.
Right, yeah, that you'd have the honor tally in your exoskeleton,
Right.
not, silver or gold drapery.
Exactly.
And are these decorative? Are the tiles, do they have decoration on them, or
No,
are they just
they're like,
simple,
yeah,
plain?
Beige looking.
Well,
So-
you can arrange them into patterns.
You
Sure.
could,
And
yeah, you
then
could.
the gold, all of the gold objects were things that you could hang in your house or put on a wall. None of those were things that you would wear on yourself. Even the small things wasn't something you
You
blend
probably
into your
could,
ribbons.
but you've not yet seen someone do that. Not even the spellcasters. And
It's a big old dangly hoop
as
earrings.
you're looking at it, and even
They'd need
picking
ears
pieces
first.
up, you can see that they're made with anchors, probably to be part of the
Right.
wall, and not just
Oh,
like
I see.
hung on a wall.
They're
but
not
to be,
decorative.
to be put into the wall.
Well,
yeah.
How I forget if it was Isk or Thovit was talking about insignificant individuals, when they die, will get inset into the wall as a display of success.
Right.
Right.
So it's probably it's going back to they decorate the clan home, not themselves.
Right.
That it's probably just whatever rulers they have that actually would decorate themselves.
And what kind of fur and hair do I recognize any of it?
Go ahead and give me a nature check.
Oh, I want to make one of those too. Can I make it
Right.
as a survival?
Yeah,
It's
sure,
always
go
gonna be
ahead.
nature.
Natural
Yeah.
20.
Natural 1.
Natural 1. Let's go,
Wow.
boys.
Yeah.
3. So much better than okay. Well, not 3. It's so much better than a natural 20, isn't it? 7.
All right. So like.
So you
4?
guys are
What was your-
forgetting.
Three.
You're forgetting about the outside world.
I didn't
Um,
know anything about the outside
Some
world.
of these fur things seem like it's not like an actual fur. It just looks like a fur. That you think they might actually be
Really a
plants
pine.
of some kind.
Oh, okay.
But then it could also be creatures subterranean that are like losing their fur, or they have less need for fur. But there is one fur that's here, and you're pretty sure that it's an elk.
An elk, like the whole elk
Like
hide.
if you skinned an elk and wrapped it up.
And I'm gonna ask Shataskin, what are these used for?
For those that dare, there are, and Shataski like pauses for a moment, doesn't cut you out, but says there are those in our society that find hell intriguing, and they may adorn their places, secret places, with things from hell.
How much does the elk skin
And you looks over to the one who is another spellcaster of a different clan, and they're blanked out for just a moment. and then comes back and says, for 2 coins.
1, take it or leave it.
Do you have?
I don't know. Didn't they give us some?
Don't you have your clicker things
Yeah,
on?
but are you?
Well,
Are you
his whole point that he was going to be so
I was gonna
obtuse
use-
with not knowing
are
the
you use
language.
charisma to try to work that
I
into?
say I'll try and
Almost
make a
the exact
persuasion.
opposite. I was thinking that
That's
you're
what I
not
was
trying
thinking
to.
too.
Like what deception? I mean, I'm equally bad at both of those.
I think be persuasion.
They're the exact same
It's like
bonus.
the stealth
Now,
thing is.
Because I'm trying to use my inability to speak their language in order to do this to my advantage, does it grant me advantage? Not
You know,
not a
yeah,
good
yeah,
word
I see
there.
what
I just
you
think it's
mean.
fun. Let's just go with it. So yes.
Yes. 21.
Nice.
The other one was an 18. That was-
So we'll play that you guys went back and forth like 3 or 4 times and you wouldn't budge, and it got to the point where
1 coin to purchase
should-
watermelon.
Right, yeah, a little
What's
bit.
a watermelon?
the price is 2. 0. You get, wait, no. 1. All right, 1.
that it's the first time you got from Shatask that it was a waste of resource for her to keep saying what you're saying and would hate to think of herself as merely a translator until the other one finally agreed and said 1
Cool. And I give it to him.
instead of the 2.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
So wait, did you buy the elk thing, or
He-
do you?
I-
Okay.
I-
Oh.
Yeah, so you now own an elk hide.
Nice.
Well, I was just thinking it would make this whatever we're sleeping on.
Hey, we're
lot
gonna
more
have a great.
comfortable.
Oh, I was thinking about putting it in the grand room when he first walk in. It's just our carpet. But yeah, a blanket would probably be more good use of resource.
So we probably hand it off to whatever drone is attending us to carry stuff.
yeah.
Because
yeah,
I'm betting
and-
there's.
Will they
And
take
you're right.
it?
They had right.
I guess a drone would.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
the-
we're basically saying, "Hi, carry this piece of hell for us." You
Oh,
don't mind,
yeah, but
do
we
you?
are hell. So honestly, it makes more sense for us to have it than whatever an Enuriac
That statement has
deviant would
never
look
been
like.
more
Right.
true.
Yeah.
That's
Truly.
honestly, I'm really intrigued about what like a rogue Enuriac would be like.
Right, in their secret places, because she did say in their secret, the
Oh, yeah.
people are intrigued by hell in their secret place.
I'm loving the idea that there's a secret meeting of like ant people that gather together
So-
and worship Uko because he is the high king of hell.
You know what would be interesting is they would be. You would think these people would be really intrigued with us.
Yeah, how soon are we going to get contacted?
What was our allowance? Like what did they give
Believe
us?
I said a dozen. Yeah, a dozen
Okay.
of these iron coins. Now,
11.
real quick. So everyone here, because she was in all of your heads saying that when she said about the secret places. Roll that as an insight without, in this case, without disadvantage. Just a straight up roll for insight.
Damn.
16, I actually did really well.
Yeah, that is good. That's
15.
definitely a make. That's definitely a make.
21.
Yeah, definitely a make.
All
yeah.
right.
So you all picked up on this. That this is all this information she had before, but never shared with you. But your status has changed, and that like asking such a direct question about that, she couldn't help but give information as efficiently as possible. That she just did communicate that there could be part of their own society that doesn't really like some elements of their own society.
Mhm.
That there's something else going on here, and that she actually communicated it to you implies something else about her.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
that does.
Very interesting.
So, do you move on through the market to see anything else before?
Yeah,
all
I
right.
mean, I want to see
got 11
everything
more
there
deals
is
to
to
make.
see.
that's right.
You've got
Um,
11 more elk hides to buy.
and
If there were any more hides, I would definitely want to buy them but I doubt that.
That was the only one
yeah,
that's
I
from
doubt
the
they have a
surface.
stack.
and
Yeah,
Jacob, you'd note right away that this hide was probably taken and then cured and tanned. You would say probably within the last 4 years.
Oh, okay.
So difficult to say.
Well-
But it was not like raw and fresh.
Right.
It's been worked.
I'll do my best to communicate to the person that we bought it from, the stall that we got it from. Is like, if you have more of these, we'd definitely be very interested.
Are
in
you trying to
purchasing
click
more.
that out right now?
Yeah, I said
With the-
More,
the
please.
Clara.
more want, please.
And it's a task gets into the head that into everyone's head that he would appreciate the procurement of more of this kind of animal hide if they can be found, and says something about Volya.
Ooh.
That's how it comes across.
Click, click, click. We'll pay better next time.
You've never heard the word Volya before, but it has part in its own tonal quality that it refers to an underground hell.
Huh.
Huh.
That sounds very similar to
do
what
I
my
notice-
company uses for their benefits, which is Voya. I was like, what little I've had to deal with them recently. Like, yes, it has been hell.
So do
Totally coincidental. while you're there, another spellcaster comes out. You can tell by the ribbons, and Shatask blocks you guys out completely. And then when it comes back in again, the council has made its first determination, and the council requires that you come in audience immediately.
Oh,
Guess
yeah,
we're done
solves
here
that.
then.
Shopping trip is over. Yeah.
Direct the drone to take it back to our room, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, do it.
Go ahead, roll
Clicky mouth
that.
thing.
Roll that as a percentage, would you, David? Just see how well you do with that one, because you don't have actually you can't roll a d20 on it. So just so now you've done that. I'd say roll high or low. You didn't say.
Oh, okay.
Low.
I was gonna say I'll
You
try that
rolled
again.
9. Yeah.
I thought I rolled 900. I'm like, man, I'm doing really good.
So which are you going?
I'll go high this time since it was low that time.
Okay.
45. Right
Okay,
there,
so
smack dab in
you
the middle.
click out something, and for the first time ever, from various clans all around the area within hearing range of you, there is a general like clack clack that comes up from everyone.
What did you say?
And then Shatask, in a very almost loud way, putting out there, said, "Take this back to quarters," and then tones herself down that she's not yelling it anymore. And again, that kind of goes on a little bit more until they get back to what they're doing. You do think it was the first expression of, you think, emotion, maybe laughter, or it could have just been surprise. That you're not sure what you said.
What did
You
he
might
say?
have just declared war.
Yeah, I'll ask
No,
Shatask.
yeah,
What did I just say?
That you were propositioning the drone.
Meet me back in my house.
I want you in my house.
Wait,
Fred.
wait.
nice base day.
So he's not gonna be there?
No, you just got 200 other ones.
No, and then again, you're also aware that this drone, given a task, doesn't go through with the main entourage toward the front of the building. It is heading around to the loading dock area. So it's
Going
using
through the servant
It's going through what's done with the servant entrance, right? And then you guys are brought in through that exact same way you did before, and at the same point, the task stops and is not coming with you. And then the Isk and Thovit are with you the entire time as you go through the upper gallery, down around into that main center to the very, very 6th ring on that gallery level, and you're once again brought before the entire council again. And as you step in and are motioned toward that front area, they say all of your names: Zelen Adar, Jacob Treadstone, Boris Kirsanov. We have determined your value and the resource you are, and we have task that is in the keeping of our clan to make the clan one of greater resource as it once was. But before we share that information, we must give you proper honors, because you cannot move through our society the way that I believe the way you think you should. Because one, Boris Kirsanov, you are, and the word comes across like quack, quack, but then you think like gaudy. It is just horrific how you're dressed and walking around. It's like, I don't know, like you're walking around like in neon fluorescent colors.
Well,
in
I'm
their society.
literally wearing a suit of $100 bills.
Right, yeah, it's like that you're wearing like a diamond suit or something. It's like you're walking around, they're like, oh my goodness, if they had a concept of that. However, the true reason
my
is
efficacy.
I have no concept of goodness. Wait.
and it has been argued that you should wear what is proper to a soldier and not only as a sister cousin, and that your battles are worn upon yourself. And from the side,
I'm not
again,
sure I like where this is going.
Me either. What's
they're on these elevated platforms, and from the side of that platform, another spellcaster, it's not even like a drone or something, hands what is like a main suit of one of their own, Carpace that is, handed over.
It's the rest of Trevor.
And says that this is the plates of Inuriak, and it shall be fitted to you, and this shall be the armor that you wear, because upon this we can put the history of your battles and your worth as a soldier. And
So assessing the suit, it looks like they designed armor to resemble mine out of
yeah, it's close as
chitin,
they could.
as opposed to they're going to graft chitin to me.
Right. Yeah. Do I need to cast Barkskin really quick?
Yeah. So,
Am I getting my hammer out?
that you've noticed that they have various secretions, and some of their secretions are kind of glue-like, and some of those are kind of food-like, and some of them are downright acidic. None of them are preparing that kind of spittle, but it does look as though a little group of them are moving forward to help you off with the wealth of your other armor, and they're going to help you on with this other stuff, unless you're resisting or pulling back from them. They didn't make it sound like it was a choice.
Yeah.
Click, click, click. Melt it down into another toilet.
Yeah. No. My immediate and probably reasonably obvious thought to them's what read minds is a concern that they're forcing a trade, not giving a gift, because that I can't accept.
And I would think that thought coming through, and let's see, which one would be the one that would handle that kind of, 1 second. That would go to one that hasn't spoken to you before, and that's Tannik. And Tannik says, this is no trade. We do not barter in the council with resource. We direct resource. That, and just directs its hands to the armor that you're wearing currently, is your resource. This is in response to the need of the clan.
My lords are most generous.
And I think that the lords goes, like the council.
That's the benefit of telepathy. It's,
right? Yeah, it comes through the way it's supposed to come through. But with that happening, these other Anuriaks start like unbuckling your armor from you and taking your armor off.
Deeply weird, but okay.
And then as they're putting it on, go ahead and give me. I guess we'll go with that Siegecraft because it works so well as a catch-all.
Yeah. Yes, I will make a +10.
Yeah, that's the nicest one.
28.
It's heavy, and it's a little awkward to put on. You're pretty sure you need help putting it on and taking it off.
Okay.
You couldn't just quickly just shed this stuff the way you did back at the Murmuring Sea with your splint. It's also more plate-like.
Bet you're happy about that.
It's more plate-like and less splint-like as you're putting it on. And you would gauge, you'd have to have a pretty good strength. Like, 15, even 17 or higher.
Okay.
Even
real glad for my 19 strength.
Yeah. So that it's very heavy stuff. And as you're kind of hefting it, as they're kind of like handing you the first part and you're holding it in place.
Flexing in it, moving in it.
That it has cloth-like stuff at the joints that seems to be reinforcing it. There is no chain on the inside of it. It's not padding exactly. It's more like the blankets that you guys got, but there's elasticity to it, almost like a gasket or a seal.
Huh. I wonder if they do something with their chitin.
Does it have a helmet?
Well, you also note that
does it have a helmet?
It has a helmet where their own body parts come together at those joints. There's a different flexible, like that stuff, like
kind of an under chitin.
Yes, and putting on that again, you can see that it's not going to be noisy because there's no metal to click on metal.
Nice change of pace.
Yeah, right? It's like at every single joint, it's more like a little shock absorber.
Okay,
that's taking one plate to the next plate.
So how does it move, Boris? Can you move in it?
Well, that's the wild thing, that it is made so as you're like trying it on, they're like and the arm pieces are separate from the chest pieces.
As I'm being bolted together.
A little bit, yeah. That you have good movement. You would figure that on, like, to put it in like the vernacular, on dexterity checks, you're to -2 for any kind of stealth check for it.
Okay, well that's significantly better than I've been in my splint.
Right, but there is no disadvantage when it comes to that.
And that is a mercy.
Like I said, it's heavier.
I'm going to be watching how they're putting this on him. One, because I want to make sure they don't like magically seal him into it, that we can't get him back out of it. And two, in case he needs help in and out, I want to know how this stuff works.
All right, so
I'm probably reviewing that with the two of you with the spellcasters that are outfitting me, and just kind of comparing to my own knowledge of like jousting plate.
Sure.
Like,
right.
How precise were they with this?
Yeah, as they're putting the whole thing together, it seems pretty precise. Like they can like
I wonder
line
if they pulled
up.
some memories out of my own head.
Does it look, well, here's what I'm wondering. If they pulled some memories out of some slave's head, does it look just like the Anariacs, or does it look like something that's been modified for a squishy being?
It looks like it's been made
Well, there's not two great big holes in my
right.
side.
There's only place for 2 arms, and it's a different like size arm, and the
no, I understand that.
musculature,
Yeah.
right? But putting the stuff on, like you noting for yourself that when these 2 were all done, it took about 10 minutes to put this thing on him. and they're also using 4 of their limbs to do this. So where they're putting something on, they're holding it in one place, squeezing it here, and the other thing goes, and you can the thing
Right.
clips together. So undoing that with just 2 hands could even be a little more difficult or take
Yeah.
even longer because they made it and they know how to manipulate it. But once you're in the thing and you're moving about, you have good movement. Not
Okay.
the best movement, but you have good movement to it, and you do feel very well protected.
What I'm wondering is if I'll pass, closer to an Enuriac. Is the helm like
The helm
Yeah.
has
kind of an Enuriac head and
Right.
the face visors up?
You're gonna be another demon thing.
that it swivels to the side. That
Okay.
there's an underchitin right where your face would be, and that swivels to the side, like inside the helmet, and that in it has these eye spots that you can see through very clearly. You can breathe through it, and when you open it, your face is just visible. But with the rest of the helmet on it, it doesn't have like antenna or anything sticking off of
Mhm.
it, but it does look like some kind of like demon Enuriac.
Right.
It's a very different look than the Enuriac, but it's very different
I
than
look like such a bad guy.
And
And you walk on 2 legs.
yeah,
I
always on the
wonder
two.
if you get any intimidation factor if we have to fight any of them. If you just
That'll be
flash
interesting.
your face,
Yeah, right.
that would freak them out.
Yeah, so and again,
Now, what I'm wondering about also is my shield.
let's see.
Well, that probably you'd be
Yeah.
nowhere near as difficult to replace. You said something about wearing my victories. Is there like an honor tally like their soldiers on the armor?
Yes, they have that your
Cool.
battle with the Murmuring Sea and with the Hook Horrors, and then a couple of things you told them about that maybe they've had the time even to verify, and that would be because they know where you came from. They know how you got into their space because they're into your heads,
Right.
which means they know where Vartangrov is, and they could trace back far enough to know also like where you guys killed the cave fisher.
Mm.
So they have that like discovered the same way they do for the whatchamacallits, for their own spellcasters, that it's a victory that you apparently found this Vartangrov and that was big for you. That was an important thing, and so that's on there as well.
Well, cool.
And then once that's done, it took a long time because they want to do something apparently similar, but the two of you, both Zelen and Boris, you're wearing Zelen and Jacob,
Oh, it's because
that you're wearing an armor that doesn't show this horribly like gaudy display of resource. It seems a much normal display of resource and protection, and you can move in this stuff. But they do bring out tabards that have the coloration strips of their own households in them. That looks like it's somebody made out of that same kind of cloth-like material, like the blankets, like the joints there. But in it, there is a single piece of this chitin, like a breastplate in front of it, and they also have your combat tallies. That those
What's a
marks.
tabard?
It's like
Like a shirt you wear over your armor.
Oh,
that just like the sides are open,
Okay.
there, so it's up over the top, like a poncho almost. And they give those to you, and without even asking you, they put that over you, and there's this piece of chitin in the front of it that has these tallies, and they say you did not require something to allow you to move like an Uriak, nor to be grossly overstated in your display of resource. However, you must wear what is your honor tallies, and so they've been placed here. And again, you can tell from their own minds, this is unprecedented. What they've actually done for Boris, you believe they might have done before in the past, though this one was obviously specifically made for him. But what they're
Well,
doing
that's
for you right now is something they've never done. So again, they just shifted their own tradition a little bit.
Yeah.
So the two of you fit.
That's interesting.
as-
That's very. Now, does my torque that I wear, does that, because I wear a golden torque on my arm, and that doesn't seem to cause any.
Yeah, that
Offense
rings,
or
the
Probably
promotion.
small
under your
stuff,
armor.
or it's out of sight with your robe. But
Maybe.
even if they did see that, they probably go, okay, but not that.
Gaudy,
Yeah.
but from hell, as opposed to dipped in wealth.
And it's only like their word for precious metal versus, look, they've refined iron into special iron, and it's all over him.
Right.
So
okay.
as scary and bizarre as Boris looks right now, in their own society, it's actually the two of you. They're going to catch more attention because it's never ever been done.
Interesting.
Societally.
Do we have any ribbons tied to the torque that we're wearing?
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is like this tabard of cloth.
Right.
And
it's tabard, sorry.
It's in the ribbon cloth like material. So it definitely displays you as sister,
cousin,
sister,
and
cousin.
warrior.
And right.
Interesting.
Some kind of a hybrid, right.
We're some kind of hybrid. I like it.
With the determination of your value and your resource, that we must have you engage in an incursion against another clan without our immediate support. Thanks for listening and gaming with us. Joe, when are we getting out of these caves? Feeling the anxiety of the party trapped underground and trapped by the Anuriak? Send us plot suggestions that would get the party to the surface and safely away from the bug people at the Empire's Edge on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please support us at subscribestar.com/the-empires-edge.